Good morning, evening, afternoon. I'm tatocat. Welcome to my channel. Today we're playing Echoes, the Lucid9 Fangame. Before I start, I'd like to apologize if the voice audio is a little bit off. I am using a new microphone. My old microphone kept giving me some issues, so I'm investigating some new ones. I'm currently using the headset that came in, which I plan on using for streaming. So there might be a little more popping, or the audio just might be a little different. And this video is going to be posted a bit later because I will be posting after I'm done recording it. I ran out of videos that were pre-recorded. Yeah. So I'm going to be posting this almost live, semi-live. It's going to be a few hours after I make sure the audio and everything is fine. And posting it. So it's probably going to be like an hour and a half or so after I actually recorded. So hopefully everything goes well. Without further ado, let us get into our previous thing. Previously, Kosuke was explaining what happened to Ruri, why her brain shut off, and is apologizing supposedly, but we must get the backstory before he apologizes. And that's where we left off. So yeah, let's continue. The neurons and a vast portion of his amygdala, the parts of his human brain that spark our most fundamental fears and aggressions, had been stimulated so heavily and in such a state of peril that repolarization and continued functionality was all but impossible. After intensive therapy, most of his brain functioned normally, but the only portions of his amygdala at peak operating capacity were the basolateral segments, much more so in his left hemisphere. This is why he suffered from poor impulse control, emotional dampening, and periods of impaired memory consolidation. Lapses, I believe you called them. A decade later, I finally had the chance to study Yama Ishimoto's brain in person. With the aid of incepts, we discovered that when we stimulated enough perceived physical danger in his conscious mind, it accelerated to superhuman levels. Okay, what powers did that give him? Will you explain this? I bet you will, because you're Kosuke. His amygdala functioned again as well, but this time with no evidence of fear, conditioning having any ill effects on his conscious mind, or motivational salience, so whatever that word is. Numerous cells of the SSD have detected that in any given sample group taken from Isamu, 1 out of 3 people are likely to carry the same gene as you that enables massive scale neuron acceleration. That's more common than I thought it was. Upon the discovery, this gene was named NK219, like NK13, NK161, and NK67. It was a neurokin. I'm 100% mispronouncing that. So not only do I mispronounce simple words, but I can't say any medical terminology. I'll never ever get a role in a medical drama. Also, I don't know what that is, the NK things. It sounds something like like the warrior gene. But I don't know what the proper terminology for that is, other than the warrior gene. At the moment, I can't tell you exactly how the neurokins work or where they came from, but when subjected to certain conditions, they can accelerate the human brain to rates that physically impossible in an ion mode of electric kinematic system. They all change in person, but 219 is on a different level than the rest. We still don't know why it's found in such concentrations here or how it proliferated undetected through our population, but we do know that it's something you and Yama both have in common. NK219 has always granted you a keen, if unstable mind, Hayata, but Yama was not so fortunate. After the accident, it became a source of constant mental deterioration for him, but his fractured mind was pushed just hard enough. The gene transformed him into a man who could take on any situation without fear or harm or injury and think his way out just as fast as he charged in. If this was overdone, however, his priorities could undergo a drastic shift. Does he get to choose his priorities? Is it like an instinctual thing? Or is it like he's like, this is my goal, and then he just becomes like laser focused on that? Or is it instinctual? When that few people could survive, much less stop. He hulks out. I hypothesized that the removal of fear and memory formation capacity as the key to unlocking the full potential of any neuron. With the mutation, as my experiments later proved, I was correct. Using a semi-permanent inceps hardware module with variable action states allowed us to safely cause these lapses at the push of a button. In doing so, we created neurons that could, for a brief moment, fire 1,000 times as quickly as a normal human's. One of my research assistants named the process heightening. It's what you experience today. So Kosuke, this has happened so often, like you've been able to repeat this to the point where it was able to be named, and you didn't think this was something to tell me that this was a possibility? It's supposed to be an emergency mechanism. That's why after 10 seconds of use, it triggers a biological circuit breaker, shutting down your heart, brain, and lungs. So it kills me. Essentially, the human being that is me. Okay. For stabilization, while your cardiopulmonary enhancements grid, thoracic battery, and neural node assembly take over your vital functions. Sounds a bit like a zombie, but I could be wrong. Technically, your neural nodes always maintain a real-time backup of your central nervous system, but after being heightened, that backup has to be restored to your brain once it cools down, in a sense. Since the two are synchronized, however, you're not going to remember when your neuron node assembly takes over. Other people around you will. Well, that's comforting if they survive. After all, that one guy stabbed in the face repeatedly didn't remember shit. But, it sounds like I turn into a zombie. Like, not in the sense of like where I bite someone, they become a zombie and I want their brains. But my body is no longer alive and it's being reanimated by something. And apparently it's murderous. So it's very similar to a zombie. And not the cute ones. Yeah. Not like Santa Clarita Diet or iZombie, but Walking Dead. And, you know, uh, Resident Evil. So, but we'll see. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But that's what it sounds like. But Rui is going to explain this in simpler terms, I assume. Okay. Let me know if I'm getting all this. You're saying what I experienced back there was a quarter minute of a total brain death, with parts of my body still moving around under the control of a cybernetic implants. That's correct. I hope this doesn't become a thing, because it sounds like there's quite a few people who have this sort of brain ability. And if incest becomes a thing and then it all happens and then we all become zombies, it's going to become a zombie game. I'm not good at zombie games. Like, I play 7 Days to Die and my family has to carry me through it. I'm like so spoiled. All I have to do is like break things and carry things and then occasionally get a zombie in the head with an arrow and I'm like, yay me. But most of the time, no, I'm just being taken care of. So if that's what's going to happen, I'm screwed. I can't tell if I should be offended or horrified by that. You should be both, Rui. Hopefully you'll stop experimenting with this tech before you screw up and make everyone into a zombie. I mean, anyone immortal. Not immortal, Hayata. Immortal. I can't even say witty comments to you without you correcting me, Kosuke. It's very on brand for you. Immortality implies that a form of life is innately immune to death. Immortality implies that death is no consequence to that life. I don't know who or what triggered your heightening, but I implore you to trust me that this wasn't supposed to happen now, if ever. I'm sorry, Hayata. I'll do what I can from now on to be more open about these kinds of things. Thank you. But I feel like it's on brand for you to not be open. I do have to say this. As much as I dislike Kosuke, I dislike Kosuke in the sense of like, you get mad at that one actor or actress because they played a villain in like a show, but they did a really good job of playing that villain. That's what Kosuke is. It's like he's a very well fleshed out asshole of a character. So, very much like how Hisao is kind of a douche weasel. And Kosuke, he's a completely original character, isn't he? So kudos to you, Cupcake. Cause I love to hate him. Like, I'm still plotting his death. So much so. I know he only zapped my brain that one time, but he also turned me into a zombie. He didn't tell me the truth about Yama. Like, you know, so yes. And I'm aware that it's not justice, it is vengeance, and it's not right, but I'm still going to do it. Even if I had to do a fanfic about it, it will happen. Well, it's something. It does fuck all for me, though. I know it's a bit rambly, but another thing I have to say is this long, unnecessary apology is also very him. Like, he could have made it so much simpler. Even if he wanted to make it more drawn out, it could have gone like this. Rui, you see, I'm going to give you a backstory before I get into it. You know how Yama hurt his brain when he was little? He damaged his amygdala. We kind of healed it, but not to the point where it's supposed to be. And for him, it just got worse. there's also this thing that 1 in 3 people have in Isamu, um, where it allows your brain to fire inhumanly at superhuman levels. You and Yama both have this. However, Yama's brain damage allows him to do this fascinating thing where in terrifying situations, he's not afraid. In fact, he's very focused and nothing can stop him. And we're like, that seems useful. I wonder how we can do that. So we use those little brain robots that we have in your brain. And we figured out how to trigger it. And what happens when we trigger it to stop your body from crying out? Your brain shuts down, your heart shuts down, and your lungs shut down. Don't worry, you have a backup system. But your body moves on its own. And you're not going to remember what you're doing because you're technically dead. Because this is all happening at once, so your brain is no longer functioning, so you don't remember shit. But the people around you will. If they're alive. So, sorry, that wasn't supposed to happen. That was a malfunction, my bad. Tad rambly, but I feel like, it works for him. Very straight to the point. I don't know if I like how I get all the details, but I feel like he could have said it more straightforward. I love how, anytime he comes up, I immediately know I'm going to get a very long story. And his is the only character that does it, and I love that. Might as well just say it's fine and move on. After all, it's not like he's supposed to give a flying fuck about anything that's not already Way Forward's problem. Apologies accepted. Anywhere I should go from here? That's up to you, Hayata. Heightening won't kill you, ish, but what happened today proves that it's less controllable than we anticipated. If your mechanical systems lose power during a neural cooldown, there's a small chance that we might not be able to get you back. So you're permadead. Will my body keep moving though? Also, we might not have remembered anything when this happened, but our brain went somewhere else. And we eavesdropped onto somebody else's conversation. Wonder if we can do that again. I don't want that to happen, but I also don't want to deprive you of something that could save your life. I can order Nakamura to shut your heightening module down, or I can request she leave it be. Huh. Do I get an actual choice about this? Which would you prefer? Oh? I do get a choice. I'm both thrilled and terrified about this. It seems like a very important decision. But a very meaningful choice. I love meaningful choices, but they're also terrifying because they're meaningful. Leave it be. I'd rather not risk going without it. Shut it down. I don't want to take any chances with hardware this dangerous. Downside, if I keep it, is sure, my brain shuts off a little bit. I have no control what's happening to my body. And there's a possibility that during this cooldown thing that I won't come back to my body. I feel like my brain's going to just be wandering around. Positive side is there might be a situation where I'm dying and my body can do this shutdown thing, and so my brain, my heart, my lungs are preserved or whatever. And on top of that, maybe I can do that thing again where I'm listening to someone else's conversation. So it's kind of like, will I end up dying because I keep it, or will I end up dying because I don't keep it? Uh, no, we'll keep it. We'll keep it. Because I wonder if that can become like one of my super magic science attacks later in the future, which I know aren't in the game yet, but who knows? Keep it. Leave it be. Leave it be. I'd rather not risk going without it. I'll notify Nakamura of your decision. In the meantime, you should speak to her in person as soon as you can. She sounds quite concerned for your safety. Kosuke, I died. And then, while I was dead, stabbed somebody in the face through armor repeatedly. Uh, most people would be concerned for my safety. That's a dot dot dots. You've grown tired, you know. Who is this? I don't know who it is. An older dude. I'll give him a derpy voice or a tired voice. Out of out of out of your shadow and face. I can't tell which of the two is longer. As have you. I apologize if I kept you waiting. I had to tell a very long story and then apologize to somebody else. I just have to say another thing I like about him is that all of his rants are actually very useful because it answers all of my questions. I feel like if it happened in person, I'd be like, can't you just apologize? Masaru. Isn't that the mayor? So this dude's the mayor? Okay. He still's getting the same derp voice. The sleepy, derpy voice. Sleepy, derpy Eeyore voice. Ah, there's no need for that. I've been waiting for things to change since I was a mere boy, Saito. Even with everything I did to try and speed it up. A good life takes time, patience, and you know that there are far greater inconveniences than having to get a bit of fresh air. But enough of that. You want to see the Trifect Fund's money at work, and I'm more than eager to show you what Limniscate's accomplished in the past few months. Ta-da! That's a really cool cityscape. Is it this thing that's being built over here? Is that the thing I'm supposed to know? It's maybe not these things. Or maybe it's this thing way over there. It has to be this thing, this domey looking thing. Look how domey and important that looks. You should stop by District 1 more often, Saito. You don't have to spend every day in the office because your corporation elected you chairman. You make a good point, Mayor. There's plenty of moderate sunlight here. Perfect conditions for laptops. Oh, Kosuke. If I wasn't planning on your murder, you might have been my favorite character. Next to Hisao. Screw Emmy. All because he electrocuted my brain that one time. I can't let it go. Perhaps instead of using my office, I could fill out a few forms here. You've always been a humble man, Saito. Okay, a humble man. Sure. I like to think that's why she chose you. But if you'd really prefer not to call me by my name, I understand. Just know the Ministry of Social Orders sees us as equals. We both earned our Class 5 designation and our seats on the Trifect Council. You may be my constituent, Saito, but before that, you were and still are my friend. Don't forget that. It's a shame that Satomi couldn't make it today. She'd no doubt be impressed by the results of our undertaking. Massive gleaming prisms aren't exactly her idea of peak architecture. She is quite fond of fortifications, however. Perhaps she'd be interested in the building if it had some point defense capabilities. Honestly, that's quite a good idea. If any terrorists ever made it here, a few hundred terawatt range lasers built into the prominence's outer walls could stop most of them before they could do any real damage. I'd opt for railguns instead of laser. Lower chance of triggering a melting light show. Aw, Kosuke, but that's how you gotta have your light shows. It's not a light show until you can't see afterwards. Ever. In theory. Remember when you asked me to tell you if I thought you sounded paranoid about national security? At the moment, you're sounding like an old man getting ready to surround his house with bear traps because a child wandered onto his lawn. The wall you built around this district has enough close-range firepower to take down a capital airship. You could launch drones from District 9 within seconds, and if that wasn't enough, this ISAF bases in Kyushu and Hokkaido could reinforce it in minutes. If you're this worried about terrorists in the heart of Isamu, what logic is there in building a 2-kilometer tall skyscraper? So it's a skyscraper? Are they talking about this? They had to be talking, because like sounds more like what they're talking about, but he's in the way. But don't know if I call that a skyscraper. Like, I mean, I guess it's technically scraping the sky, but like you normally think of them like boop 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 tall like this. This is all round and domey. You know, like, well, a dome. I would think that they call it a dome, not a skyscraper, but I guess technically it's doing that. Unless this is what they're talking about, because this is very skyscrapery. This just seems more impressive. Beyond Isamu lies a hostile and primitive world, Saito. Aside from the Allied States, the factions that surround us are content to destroy one another, and they would seek to do the same to us if their ignorance ever blinded them to our overwhelming might. We must secure a future for Isamu and its people by force if necessary. In this regard, he says that so matter-of-factly. Like, yeah, well, we gotta do what we gotta do. In this regard, I believe that we have done all that we can. So does the Merit Council. Alright. Well, hopefully no, who's kidding? The Merit Council's evil. I'm sure this dome thing is really just for the rich people to be in, and, the poor people are going to be on the outside while they're getting sick, and the rich people will be like, la-ti-da, on the inside of the dome skyscraper, where they're away from the disease or something disturbing like that. We'll see what's going on with that in the next episode. I hope to see you there.